Hello guys, today we are gonna solve the two questions related to the C programming language application session. Okay, and so this is the number of the questions 3.34 and 3.35 in the chapter 3. And so we have two questions, palindrome tester and printing the decimal equivalent of a number binary. But we have already done this question or solved in the previous lessons, and so we changed the question with the decimal number, transferring the decimal number into the hexadecimal one. Okay, and so we need to use the array structure in C programming language, and so we need to use the char characters. But in the second question we're gonna solve the decimal equivalent of the hexadecimal numbers. Okay, and so firstly we need to run the Microsoft Visual Studio 2019, and so if we are start this program, and so we need to create a new project session, and so we need to choose the compiler session in here, the C++ programming, and so we need to create a console application, and then we should push the next button in here. And so this is the week 4 lesson, and then we should locate, or we should select the location of the our project file. Okay, and so we need to use the push button in here. This is the week 4, and so you can choose the arbitrary section or the folder location in your computer. And so in order to create this project we should select this folder, and then we need to create this file. Okay, and so we have the standard input section in here, the command window in here, and so we also have the solution explorer. But in normal condition the Microsoft Visual Studio creates a C++ file, because the compiler is the same with the C1, but the small differences. Okay, and so we need to delete all the things, and so the source file needs to be renamed by the extension version of the C. Okay, and so this program is considered by the compilers as the C programs. Okay, and so in order to test this program output, and so we can create a main function block in here with a return statement, and so printf the tester can be run in this selection. Okay, in order to debug this program, or in order to run this program, then we can push this local Windows debugger section in here, like this one. The output is in here, and so Microsoft Visual Studio debug console is opening, and then the tester is seen. Okay, and our algorithm or our program is in the form of C programming language. We checked. Okay, and so in the question session we're gonna focus on the palindrome tester, and so we need to read the question. A palindrome is a number or a text phrase that reads the same backward as forward. For example, if you wanna use this number in the integer form, 1 2 3 2 1 is the same with the direction of the reverse order. Okay, and so if we start in at the left hand side 1 2 3 2 1, and so if we start at the right hand side 1 2 3 2 1 is the same with the previous one, and so we can say that this number is a palindrome. Okay, and so we need to create some specific program in order to test these numbers. Okay, and so how can we do that? Firstly, we should create some specific variable in here, integer n r sum is equals 0 and temp, in order to assign all the values in the form of what? The char character or the another one. Okay, and so In the first place, we should ask the user which enter the number. Okay, and so if you are asking the enter the number selection to the user, and then the user should give us or should give the program as the what, a specific number. And so we need to use the scanfs section. Scanf is the same with the scanfs, but in the later version of the C programming language, or in the later version of the compiler session in Microsoft Visual Studio, the scanf should be used, because in the later compiler session scanf is not usable, because it's not secure and the compiler gives an error if you use this selection. Okay, in some compiler session such as the Visual Studio Code, and so if you use the different compiler version, and then this cannot be, or this cannot be gives us to what, the error value. But in Microsoft Visual Studio session, especially in the 2019, it's an error, and so we need to use the scanfs. Okay, and so if we have the number in here, we should first the identity or the type of this variable. In order to store the number given from the user, should be preserved or should be stored in the AND variable. Okay, and so we don't use the AND variable in here, because scanfs takes the address variable of the integer value, and so we need to put the address operator or ampersand operator in order to give the specific address of the AND variable. Okay, and so in order to test this program, or in order to create a correct form of programming techniques, we need to assign the temp is equal to n, because we need to store the first number or the given number to the user. And so if we create another version of this n variable, which means that we need to check the number in the forward direction and the reverse direction, and so the temp is in the form of forward direction, but n should be changed with the function of us, and so we need to reverse it in the form of equal this term. Okay, and so in conclusion, the temp is preserve the first number and n is changed in our codes. Okay, and so how can we create a reverse order of these numbers? We should use the loop variable, such as the while loop. Okay, and so in order to create a while loop, and so the n must be smaller or must be bigger than the 0, because n is changed in the loop directions. Okay, and so how can we obtain the reverse written n number? And so we can use the r variable as a reminder variable in here, and %10, which gives us the reminder term of what? Reminder term of n value. For example, if we have the 1 2 3 4 variable in here, and so this operation is applied on the code, and so which will give us 4. Okay, and so we should create a new number in the reverse order direction, and so the sum is used by using this perpage. Okay, and so the sum should be equal to what? The sum times 10, because the times 10 gives us the units of our new number. Okay, and so we need to put the r variable. Okay, and so if we use this syntax, and so n should be divided by the 10, because in each iteration we can have, or we obtain, the specific number of this variable. For example, in the first while loop iteration we obtain 4, in the second 3, in the third 2, in the fourth 1, and so if we divide it by the 10 for the n variable, and so n is going to 0. Okay, and so how can we sure about that? In order to debug this session in the C programming language, we have an excellent tool in order to get the each iteration variable in the real-time application. And so how can we do that? If we put the specific assign variable in here with the breakpoint, in order to add the breakpoint in some definition, and so we need to use this section in the direction of the up to down. Okay, and so if we create a breakpoint, and so if we run this program, and then the program comes here. Okay, and so include a library is added to the code, and so the main is the start address, which is equal to 0x0037450, which is the arbitrary random number, which is the selected by the compiler session in our RAM application, and so the code goes to here, and so it waits. But what? Because if we create this number, and so we can easily see that, or we can check that each number, what is the value of the each number. Okay, and so if we try to forward this selection, and so we can use this button, step info, step over, and step out. Okay, and so in order to take one step in our program, and so we can push this button, and so this arrow represents our algorithm is in the range. Okay, and so this arrows which algorithm or which code is used or is operated in our system, and so the n is the what minus 81 blah blah blah, and so sum is equal to 0. Okay, and so if we check the debugging session or debug value of these things, we don't have any comment in here or any code in here. But if we take a step over now, and so the enter number is seen in here. Okay, and so if we take one step over now, and so the program waits until we give an input variable for this kind of variable. Okay, for example, if we create, or if we take this 1 2 3 variable in here, and so if we push the enter button here, and then what? So if we push the enter button, and so arrows indicates the temp is equal to n, and so at that time the n is equal to what? 1 2 3. Okay, which is given by us in the program session, and so we can easily check the whole variable in our algorithm in the real-time application. Okay, this is the debugging session of our C programming language. Okay, and so we can easily see, or we can easily check the whole variable, and so if we take the step over one time, and so the temp is equal to the n. And what? So the n is bigger than 0, and then this loop is going to run. And so if we take a step over in here, and so n is equal to 1, 2, 3, r is the arbitrary number or garbage variable or garbage number. And so if we run this program one time, and so r is equal to 0, because 1, 2, 3 gives us in the reminder term is equal to 3. And so if we rerun this program, and then what? N is equal to 12 at the end of the while loop. And so if we rerun this program, and then this condition is checked by our debugging session, 12 is bigger than 0, and then this is true, and so this loop is going to run. Okay, and so n is equal to 1, 2, and so it gives us in the reminder term is 2. Okay, and so sum is 3, and so if you rerun this program, sum is 32, because the sum in the previous session is equal to what? Is 3, because the sum is in the first place is 0, and so reminder term is 2, and so sum is equal to the 32. Okay, and so we need to divide the n by the temp variable, and so n is equal to 1. Okay, and so if we rerun this program like this one, and so n is equal to 0, but the sum is equal to 3 to 1. In the first place, the temp is indicating the what? 1, 2, 3, but the sum is 2, 3, 2, 1. Okay, and so we have obtained the reverse form of our number, which is given by the users. Okay, and so we can stop this program, and so the forward order and reversed order are obtained by our algorithm. And so we need to create a if block or the conditional blocks in here in order to test these two number is equal or not. Okay, and so we need to put the if blocks in here, and so temp is equal to sum, and so we need to write it down as the printf function in here, and so what? The or number, the number is palindrome. Okay, but if the temp is not equal to the sum, and so we need to put the else variable in here, and so printf should be added in here in order to warn the user the number is not palindrome. Okay, and so our debugging session is shown by our algorithm, and so in order to check or in order to debug or in order to fix your program from the errors, and so you can use these techniques in order to remove the whole unconditional or broken session in your programming language or in your programming codes. Okay, and so if we rerun this program now, and then we have the debugging session in here, enter the number of these things, which means that the 1, 2, 3 is given by this one, and so the number is not palindrome. And in the first place, we should use or we should give the both number in here printf, and so the both numbers are, and so what? %d with a new line character, and so in the first place we should give the temp, in the second place we should give the sum variable. Okay, and so if we rerun this program and then enter the number 1, 2, 3, 4 or 2, 1, and so if we push the enter number, the both numbers are, this is the forward form or this is the same with the initial number, but this is the reverse order of this number, and so the number is palindrome. Okay, but if we're gonna use the different numbers like 5, 4, 3, and so the first number is the 543, and so in the second number is the 345, and so this is not the same number with the first one. Okay, and so the number is not a palindrome. And so these are the total program for the first question, and so we can create an integer variable or any variable in our programming language is the main function blocks. Okay, and so we can put or we can take the any number character from the user by using the scanf as, and so we can warn the user by using the printf function. It's a standard output function block in here, but in the microprocessor controlling sessions, or if you are going to use to create some specific controller section by using the microcontrollers, this is the standard output function or serial connection function. Okay, and so in our session the printf is used to what? These characters or these warnings or these words transferred into the this to our screen, and so our screen is the output session or any other device in our computers. Okay, and so printf sends a data to our screen variable or the graphical cards. Okay, and so we can assign the temp is equal to the end. We can use the while loops in here, and so we can check or we can check the whole number variables by using the if and as blocks in our programs. Okay, this is our first session related to our questions. Okay, and so in the second place we should focus on to another example of our session, which means that we have the decimal number, which means that 0 to 1, and so we need to convert this number into the hexadecimal representation of it. Okay, and so we need to put the include in here standard input output library, because if we don't use this library or if we don't include this library into our programming session, and so we don't use or we cannot use the printf or scanf function blocks in our main function blocks. As we call in the previous lessons, the main is the starting address of our programming techniques, because it is represented or it is considered by the address block in our RAM session. Okay, address of a RAM session related to our program, or in computer science the .exe is started by the main function blocks in here. Okay, and so what about our question in here? Our question means that we should give some specific numbers like the 10 or 45 in here, and so this is the decimal number, which means that is a 10 or decimal basis with this notation, and so we need to convert this number into the hexadecimal. Okay, and so like the 15 is equal to in the decimal or hexadecimal notation is f, and so we need to give the 15 as an input variable, and so the output of our program is equal to what? To f in the hexadecimal notation. And so we need to create a program, or we need to write a program in order to perform this specific task. Okay? And so in order to do that, we should create a specific variables in order to store the decimal number, the remainder, like the r value in the previous session. And so we have also a quotient number. In the Turkish term, the bölüm verisi. And so the remainder in the Turkish means the kalan. Okay? And so the remainder term is r, and the quotient is equal to what? The sum variable. The analogy can be created by this, but it's not the same with the previous examples. Okay? And so in order to create some loops in here, and so I can be used for these purposes, and j and temp variable. Okay? And so we are going to use, or we need to use, the some specific array structure in here. Hexadecimal number. Hexadecimal number includes some specific notations like f, d, e, a, blah blah blah. And so this is the special character of what? The char type. And so we don't use the integer type of this number in order to represent this section. And so the any integer number cannot store this f, d, e, or a variable. Only the char can do that. Okay? And so we need to use the char array structure in here. Okay? And so as always, do that in the previous example, enter any decimal number is in here. Okay? And so we need to use the scanf as cure scanf as in here with what? The long integer decimal number means that the percentage LD value, and so we need to ampersand operator in order to represent the address variable of this decimal number, and so decimal number should be added in here. Okay? And so in the only usage of the decimal number, this type of number is equal to the long integer. But if we put at the left hand side with the notation of the ampersand, and so this represents the address of the long integer number in where? In RAM. Okay? And so the RAM, as you can see, if you don't know the definition of extension of RAM, the random access memory. Okay? This is a temporary memory of our computers or any microcontroller systems. And so if we're gonna use any codes or any program in our computers, the storage or the whole variables, whole programs is stored in the RAM, random access memory. Okay? And so we need to move to create a question of these things in here. So now we should assign the quotient variable is equal to what? The decimal number, because we need to split the whole decimal number into what? The hexadecimal representation of it, because in the decimal number with the base of the 10 should be converted into the what? The 16 bases. Okay? The remainder of the whole terms, the 16 in hexadecimal notation, but in the decimal notation the basis is given by with the 10. Okay? And so in the decimal notation, for example, the 1 is equal to what? 10, but in the hexadecimal notation, 1 is equal to the what? 16. Okay? And so the quotient should be initialized by the decimal number, which is provided by the users. Okay? And so we need to create a loop in here until what? The quotient variable is equal to 0. And so if the quotient variable is not equal to 0, then these loops continue to what? The run. Okay? And so firstly, we should find the quotient reminder term with the basis of 16, because we want to convert the decimal number into the hexadecimal one. And so temp is the storage variable in order to take this variable into the the hexadecimal one. Okay? And so how can we assign this integer value into the char characters? And so the Ascii is a standard type of the char representation character notation of C programming language. Okay, is a standard, and so we need to use in order to convert the whole integer variable into the char representation, because char representation should be used in order to obtain the F, E, D, C, B, A value of hexadecimal notation. Okay, we cannot store these characters into the integer value. Okay, so we need to use the char array representation in here. And so we need to convert integer value into the character value. But how? In the Ascii table, every characters A, B, C, D is represented by the specific number, like the A is equal to 1, or B is equal to 2, or C is equal to 3. For example, it's not true, but the example notation or similar notation is given by this kind of talking about I'm here. Okay, and so if the temp is smaller than 10, and so we can use the numbers like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and so temp should be changed with the 48. 48 means that the Ascii table includes the whole number, like this one, special character, sharp, dot, or blah 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 in here. But in the 48 character, the numbers is begin 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, this is represented by the 48. And so if our temp variable is equal to 1, and so the 1 is equal to should be added to the temp, and so the index of 1 is equal to the 49. And so this is the char representation of our number in here. Okay, but if our temp is bigger or equal to the temp, and so we need to use the A, B, C, D, E, F character in here. Okay, and so we need to add the temp into the 55, because the index of 55 represent the A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, these are specific notation of our Ascii table. You should check on the internet in order to get the full knowledge of the Ascii representation, but in our lesson we shouldn't include this Ascii table, okay? And so this is irrelevant from our lessons. And so if you calculate this correct temp value in here, and so we need to assign the hexadecimal number E++ in here, because the first decimation of these things is what is in the one variable, and so the temp should be equalized is these things. And so what about this? In the here the temp is in the type of integer, but we can assign the integer value to the char character by using the Ascii representation, okay? C programming language can convert the integer value automatically into the char representation, but the whole this integer value is in the correct value form, okay? And so if we add the 48 for the numbers and 55 for the A, B, C, D, E, F value, and so the type is in the correct form, and so we can assign to the char array for what? To these integer values, okay? And so if we assign this number in here, and so quotient variable should be divided by what? The hexadecimal notation, which means that 16 value, in order to cut this variable notation, because we have already added to this temp variable into this one, and so this quotient should be divided by the 16 in order to operate the next stage of this number, okay? And now we can create these things in here, and so until the quotient is not equal to 0 is completed, and then this loop is closed. And so we should forward with the printf function in here. Equivalent hexadecimal value of decimal number is given by what? %d. And so we should take a space in here. The decimal number is given in here. And now if we are written, or if we want to write or output the hexadecimal number in here, we should create a for loop with the initialization value of j is equal to I minus 1, and so j smaller than 0 is our condition, and j should be decreased in each iteration, and so printf should be used in here. The char character representation is given by %c, and so hexadecimal number array should be searched or should be written by using the j variable in here, okay? And so if you don't understand this code, you need to debug this code in order to understand the whole picture or the working mechanism in our algorithms. But in the first place we should test this algorithm in here, and so enter any decimal number in here. 15 must be equal to what? The f value in here, okay? And so we should add the printf session in here to new line or crlf character in order to get a more representative output session on the console debugs, okay? 15 is given by what in the hexadecimal notation is equal to the f, okay? And so if we rerun this program, and then the 48 is equal to what? 2f. f equal to 15, and so this is the order of the 16, and so 2 times 16, 32, plus f 15, and so 257, and so the 4 is obtained by transferring this number into the decimal one. Okay, this is our algorithm. And now if you don't cover up the how to behave this algorithm in here, and so we can use the breakpoints, or we can use the debugging session in here. Okay, if we push, or if we add the breakpoint in here by clicking the left button on our mouse, and so if we rerun this program, and so the arrow is in here, and so if we take a step over by using the function 10 or F10 button in your computer keyboard, and so we can also take a step in our programs. Okay, and so if we take this program in here, and then the enter any decimal number is given in here, and so if we give the 15 in here and pushing by enter button in here, and so the decimal number is equal to what? The 15 value. Okay, and so the quotient is a garbage value, and so if we take the step over in here, the quotient is equal to the 15 because the user input is equal to the 15, and so as well as the decimal number. Okay, and so in the while loop, the quotient 15 is not equal to 0, and then the while loop is run in our programs. Okay, the temp variable is in the garbage value in the first place, but the quotient 15 percentage 16, the remainder term is equal to what? The 15 value. Okay, and so the if block, the 15 is greater than 10, and so if we step over, and so the else is run in our program, and temp is 15, temp is 15, and so in the next place the temp is equal to the 7. The 70 is the char representation of what? To f value. Okay, and so if we rerun this program with the F10, and so hexadecimal number is equal to what? The f value is given in here. Okay, in here, and so we need to divide the quotient with the 16 value, because we need to reduce the order of our number according to, or with respect to, the hexadecimal notation, which is equal to 16 division value. Okay, and so if we rerun this program, and then the quotient is equal to 0, and so the while loop is broken, and then the printf, this notation is given the output session, or the console debug session. Equivalent hexadecimal value of decimal number is equal to 15. But how can we write the whole char characters in here? J is equal to the form of the garbage value, but I is equal to the 2, and so if we take a step over in here, and so the for loop is begin, and then we run this program, then f is written on the console debug session, and so if we rerun this program, and then j is equal to 1. Okay, and so if we rerun this program, j is equal to 0, and then for loop is broken, and so we have the character of f is given in here in the correct form of these things. Okay, and so if we rerun this program, and then 2 new line character is given to our output session or console debug session on the screen. Okay, and so we can stop this program, and we have the correct value of these things. Okay, in the bigger number notation, like the random number is given in here, like this one. And so if we take this number, and so this is the representation of what this decimal number is converted into this hexadecimal notation of values. Okay, and so if we rerun this program, and then we can give the 111 blah blah blah, and so this is the decimal notation, cannot be stored by using the long integer value. And so these are the R storage extensive session is a problem of the runtime error. And so if we take the 987 in here, and so 3dB is the equivalent of what the 987 value of this decimal number. Okay, and so this is the last session of our application session in C programming language. And so if you don't understand the working mechanism of this main function block of your program session, and so you can debug the whole session by using the breakpoint notation in here, by using the this blocks, or using the F9 button in your computer. And so you can step over by using the F10 button in your keyboard, your computer. And so you can easily cover up the whole section of whole iteration in your algorithm, step by step. Okay, and so I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I hope I can teach you by using these two sessions in here. See you the next lesson or the next weeks. Okay.